Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. Now, my voice is going to be a little bit nasally today. I am very sick with a cold, but we're gonna power through. Anyway, Skyrim is a gigantic game. Yes, we are changing adjectives each video from now on. Loaded with a variety of characters to meet, locations to explore, and quests to complete. So much content that even 6 years later, some of Skyrim's Easter eggs, references, and subtle hints may have still only been noticed by some of us. So today, in respect to that, we'll be taking a look at yet another 10 tiny details you may still have missed in The Elder Scrolls V. Part 23-ish, I think. Man, that's a lot of parts. Starting off, during the quest to kill an empire, the Emperor is staying at Solitude's castle dower, and the Dark Brotherhood sends the Dragonborn to impersonate a famous chef known as the Gourmet to infiltrate the castle and poison the Emperor's meal. At least, that was the plan, as it turns out that during the quest, you accidentally kill the Emperor's decoy instead, and the whole thing backfires. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. What I want to focus on is the beginning of the quest, as before you enter the castle dower where the decoy is staying, you'll have to present your forged credentials, which claim you're the Gourmet, to Commander Morrow, captain of the Emperor's bodyguard at the door. Now, interestingly, if you're dressed in any normal piece of clothing, or even no clothes at all, Commander Morrow will say the following after reviewing your documents.
The Gourmet.
By Azra. The Gourmet. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. We had no idea who to expect. You understand, you're not dressed as I would have suspected. But please, don't let me keep you.
But if you decided to go all out and are wearing a chef's hat and tunic, that dialogue will instead change, ever so slightly, to reflect your more fitting attire.
The Gourmet.
By Azra. The Gourmet. I'm sorry. Your clothes, of course. I should have realized. Please, excuse my ignorance. Gianna, the castle chef, has been eagerly awaiting your arrival. You should proceed to the kitchen straight away.
Next on our list, Deepfolk Crossing is an ancient Dwemer bridge that sits over a waterfall and river located northeast of Markarth in the Reach. It's not particularly relevant to any significant quests, nor is it home to any notable enemies or NPCs. It just is sort of there. However, it would seem that Deepfolk Crossing may also be the site of a very tragic accident indeed, as just underneath the bridge in the river are the bones of a long-dead unfortunate individual. Now, you can make of this what you will, but you'll notice that a small portion of the bridge directly above the skeleton sort of sticks out. Almost like a way too misleading diving board. So, in my opinion, it looks like some poor guy decided to take a dive, only to discover that the water was far too shallow in the worst way imaginable. Coming at number 3, the quest, The Whispering Door, is one of Skyrim's spookiest. It concerns Jarl Bolgrip's children's recent behavior. You see, one of his kids in particular, a boy named Nelker, has had some major behavior problems and even scarier ideas lately. I'm talking some real Children of the Corn stuff here. When you confront the boy about it, he claims to have been speaking to the whispering lady behind the door, and directs you to meet her by visiting an old locked wooden door in Dragon's Reach's basement. As the quest progresses, you eventually end up speaking to a strange ghostly being locked behind the door who eventually reveals herself to be Mephala, the Daedric god of murder, secrets, and plots. She's who's responsible for corrupting the boy's mind. Now, while you do eventually get to open this door and enter the room, you never actually get to see Mephala or whatever spirit it was speaking to you from behind the door, as when you do finally get the door open at the quest's end, they'll be gone. Well, if you're on PC and use console commands to disable clipping or enter a free camera, and go behind the door while you're still speaking to the ghost early in the quest and it's supposed to be locked, you'll discover that this evil entity you're supposed to be communicating with is actually just a nightstand. I know, I don't get it either. Bethesda clearly didn't intend for players to ever actually see the spirit you're communicating with, so apparently they just created a placeholder actor to assign a voice to. And that placeholder just so happened to be a piece of furniture. Do with this information what you will. For a fourth spot, in the town of Iverstead in the Rift, there exists a Nord sawmill owner named Temba Widearm. She offers the Dragonborn a quest to murder a bunch of bears and bring her back the pelts. But other than that, she's a fairly inconsequential NPC. Well, her name, Temba Widearm, is actually a reference to the Star Trek Next Generation episode Darmok, where the phrase "Temba, his arms wide" is mentioned. I'd love to show you a clip of the scene because it's a little bit funny in my opinion, but that'd be an excellent way to get a copyright strike, so we'll just have to do with the meme. Halfway through at number 5, while we're still in the rift, we have a very strange scene that I'd like to show. South of Northwind Summit on a cliffside, the player can find a chest containing some leveled loot in between two skeletons. How these unlucky souls died is entirely unclear. Perhaps they murdered each other to death trying to get to the box, or maybe they conveniently both starved to death at the same time. Whatever happened here is a mystery only the gods can answer. 6th, one random encounter the player may have involves a Dunmer you can meet on a roadside. He tells you that he's on his way to Solitude to join up with the Legion. He believes the Empire's in the right and the Stormcloaks are a little racist anyway. If you choose to do so, you can follow him as he makes his entire journey to Solitude, so long as he doesn't get killed by some wild animal or bandit on the way, which is a little more likely than is convenient. But assuming you've kept him safe, after he's made his way to the city itself, he'll despawn at Solitude's gates, and reappear in the Blue Palace, where he will remain for seemingly the rest of the game. Now, from my limited experience, it looks like this only happens if you choose to follow the character all the way to Solitude and protect him on the way. Additionally, there's a similar random encounter where you can stumble upon an Imperial joining the Stormcloaks on his way to Windhelm. But after literal hours, yes, plural, as in probably around 2 of them, of following that guy around, it seems he despawns entirely at the city's gates, and doesn't reappear anywhere else, like the Palace of the Kings. Furthermore, no one's really sure why the Dark Elf goes to the Blue Palace, rather than Castle Dower, where General Tullius is. It's anyone's guess, but hey, at least he made it there. Our 7th spot concerns everyone's favorite faction, the Thalmor. You may notice that their soldiers wear elven light armor, which strangely has feathers and all sorts of bird-like references ingrained on it. Now, I'm using a mod that recolors elven armor to look a little less golden, but doesn't actually change the model itself. However, here's a picture of what its normal color scheme looks like, just for reference. Well, what you may not know is that there's actually a fairly significant meaning behind all of this avian imagery. You see, it's all a reference or nod to the god Auriel, the elven variant of Akatosh, who is often represented in their culture as an eagle. This is why their armor is decorated with feathers and the like. Admittedly, Auriel's significance is a bit greater than I described, but a full explanation would require a 20-part series of its own, so we're working with our time. At number 8, we have something that's less of an intentional detail by Bethesda, and more of an interesting piece of trivia. Carts in the game are weird. Yes, that's the gist of this one. You can literally cause them to fuse together if you push 2 carts into one another. I'm serious. Furthermore, they can be used to carry around NPCs if you manage to get one on top of a cart. And they can even kill you if you walk into them the right, or wrong depending on the way you look at it, way. Admittedly, this information doesn't have nearly the same level of consequence as some other items mentioned on this list. However, I still found these cart facts to be rather interesting, and it's been on my list for like 6 months now, and I need to say something eventually. I still even have a couple more. Maybe we can do a 5 things you didn't know about carts video in the future. Getting close to the end here at number 9, south of Autumn Watch Tower, deep within the mountains that surround Skyrim's southern border, is another very questionable scene, which seems to be a theme in this video, near an altar. Here lies the bodies of 2 long-dead Draugr, a male and a female. Now, you may take notice of the very, shall we say, scandalous position these elderly corpses are in. I don't want to go into too much detail, but you can probably paint a picture of what may have been going down here for yourself. There's also a variety of potions on the altar too, including one for invisibility, another for health, and one for magicka. Funny. I guess they must have already used the stamina elixir. And finally, last on our list, regarding Skyrim Civil War, it turns out Bethesda recorded pre-battle speeches to be delivered by Imperial Legate Rika and Stormcloak General Galmar Stonefist that were going to be used before the siege of every major city in the game. Now, anyone who's played through Skyrim Civil War might think this is a little bit strange, because you don't actually siege every major city in the game. The only cities that actually have battles in them are Whiterun, Solitude, and Windhelm. The reason Bethesda recorded all this seemingly excess dialogue is because they originally intended for Skyrim Civil War to be a much larger and more grand affair, where in order to capture Hold, you'd have to storm and siege its capital rather than just take a couple of measly forts. Of course, we've talked about how Skyrim Civil War was supposed to be larger in past cut content videos, but I don't believe I've showed off any of the pre-battle speeches just yet. So here, take a listen to one of them before the siege of Riften.
This is it, men. It's time to make this city ours. This is an important day for the Empire and for the Legion, and for all of Skyrim. This is the day we send a message to Ulfric Stormcloak and the rebel Jarls who support him. That message is this: any king who denies the Emperor will wake one morning to face the Legion staring down his gates.
But with that, we are going to wrap up. Yet another 10 tiny details you may still have missed in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Which of the ones on this list were your personal favorites? And what Easter eggs or hidden Skyrim secrets do you know that others may not yet? Leave a comment down below. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated. Again, thanks for stopping by, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.